Not great. I mean, it's better today. It's supposed to be 55, which will be good.
Perfectly acceptable for March.
Yeah. But then I think in like 2 days, it's going to rain for like 6 days.
Yeah.
It's a really awesome time to have kids at home.
I like the snow that hit the other day, right after was it 50 degrees? So I was out like raking up the yard. The snow comes.
Yeah, it's a treat.
We're pretty sunny here.
We are live on both. Just so
Cool.
you all know. In like 2 days, it's gonna rain. Oh, wait a minute! I gotta mute this. Really awesome time to have. There we go. Could you guys hear the echo at all with the stream? Yeah, I muted it. We're good. All right, just give a few people time to jump in.
Have we heard of Toby's joining?
Toby's not joining, unfortunately. His passionate audience will not be able to see him. He has a business call because he is a businessman. He has a business call at 1:00. He said he's gonna attempt to watch a little bit on the side, so we'll make sure that Toby's available next time.
All greetings to Toby. Still welcome here.
Yes, any hi Tobys are always great.
So I jumped on LinkedIn to be able to follow the chat, and the first post here is like our Detroit Labs work from home inspiration. People have some really nice workstations at home, really nice and neat.
A little bit on the side, so
I have not been ready to present mine since I'm fully remote, working from home all the time. It is not presentation state right now.
Is it very lived in?
It's lived in, yeah. There's all sorts of empty cups and glasses and
any Pepsi bottles?
Any what?
Any Pepsi bottles?
No Pepsi.
I'm the only one with that bad habit around here.
Yeah.
It's Steven, as a creative, like is that your sort of like ideal creative space? A messy one or a clean one? Where do you lean?
I'd say like messy is a symptom of an ideal creative space. I mean, like being too strict is not, for me at least, friendly for being creative. So I don't want to like always be too strict or always have like a process for cleaning up at certain times every day. That's going to harsh the mellow out a little too much for me to always be creative.
Are you like me and you punch a reset button like every 3 months and just do a full clean?
Yep, right about then. Usually every time my desk does get a wipe down, it's right after having spilled coffee on it.
Yeah. Mine's when I see like the dust start to pile up. Because depending on the type of desk you have, you might have things that sit in a certain place that make it difficult to clean. And the next thing you know, you have like just piles of crud behind there.
Yeah, the minute you move everything, it's like a ghost town. Like you just see like things that used to be there.
Yep.
Yeah. Or like a dust cloud when your desk is like jostled.
I was joking around with the design team earlier and sent a picture. I have a black desk and I have other black pieces of furniture in this room. And now the sunlight's starting to come in.
Oh,
I see dust everywhere. And I invested in a one of these like air purifiers that's supposed to cycle the air through and pull this stuff out of the air. I think it made it worse.
Oh yeah,
I think it made it worse.
But the dust that then comes out is just a little cleaner. What it does is it scrubs the dust.
It's healthier for you.
Allergens, right? It's healthier dust. So when you're breathing,
have vitamins.
It's better.
It's just blowing it around.
Yeah, exactly. All right. All right. So I think we're about to get going, but there is a question already on LinkedIn that says, "What platforms are you using for these videos?" That is a really great question. So we normally use, so when we shoot these at the office, so for our Labs Live productions, which are a little bit more of a production, we normally use a piece of software called Wirecast. It's definitely more on the professional side. For things like this, now that we're shooting these at home, at least for the foreseeable future, we're using a program called StreamYard. and it's like $25 a month, something like that. It's completely Chrome based, so you just send a link out to people. They join with their webcam and their mic, and as the admin, you can add them and remove them to the stream. You get some of the questions show up on this little admin post. You can, I don't know, let's see, let's play with a few things here. You can change the theme a little bit and change it back. You can add a black logo or a white logo. There's a number of different things that you can do that's kind of neat and makes it very simple. So if you are looking to do something like this, StreamYard has been pretty cool to use so far. Jeff Kelly has a lot of nooks and crannies for Dust. All right. That's what he said on LinkedIn. So let's kind of get going here a little bit. So if you're tuning in, thank you. We're all in our home offices because that is currently the new normal. And I'm joined here with Dave Clawwitter and Stephen. Is it Parisi? Am I saying it right? Or
yeah, that works.
Okay. Was it work or is that accurate?
You know what? I've used and heard Parisi and Parisi. If you go with the Parisi, it rhymes with more things. Cheesy, Parisi,
Parisi, cheesy Parisi. Let's just throw that in there as an alias. No. So what we're going to talk about, and I think we're going to have a few more of these as we move on here. One, we wanted to make sure we kept doing our live streams. We wanted to make sure that we're talking, we're communicating with our community that we normally do, and that felt important to us. And especially right now, it felt like it was a good time to have a little fun with it too, as much as we can. Today, we're going to be doing a remote spotlight series. We're kind of starting this, and we're going to focus on designers, tips, tools, tricks, maybe some processes that the designers work through. And we're going to be paying attention to questions. So if you have questions coming in on either LinkedIn or YouTube, we're on both right now. So either LinkedIn or YouTube, if you have questions, ask. We'll interrupt anything to answer those. And I suppose if you have any questions on any other social platform, maybe ask. I'm assuming someone's monitoring. I'm assuming Elise and Diana are. And with that, I think I think the interesting thing is, Stephen, you are a veteran work from home. You are in Denver. Our offices are Detroit and Ann Arbor. So you're a veteran. Dave, this is somewhat new to you, although you've been home probably for a solid month at this point. But I don't know. I think, Dave, why don't you kick us off and talk about what this experience has been like from the new standpoint, and Stephen can chime in on being a veteran of the remote world.
Sure. Yeah. Gosh, over the past 7 or 8 years, I've been remote here and there, but never for weeks at a time, right? And never really with a 3-year-old who's also play from home. So that's been a challenging experience. I'm fortunate enough to have an extra room in the house that's kind of always been home office material, just because I tend to work from home outside of work hours quite a bit. And like that has been critical. Like I'm not sure how people are working from their dining room tables or the couch. So yeah, it's been challenging to focus, but I've really valued the extra time at home. No commute, but I do miss everybody. We were just kind of talking about this on a team meeting, on a hangout the other day. Like, it's nice to see everybody's digital personas, but like, I want to see them in the flesh. I want to talk to them.
Yeah, you were talking about like working from the dining room table. As a veteran remote designer here, first thing to get right is your equipment and make sure you're comfortable, and you can either sit there or sit and stand for long periods of time. Sitting is the new smoking. People, so make sure to get up. Also, equipment wise, Claw and I have some like over the ear headphones. Super nice, especially if you're going to be on calls all day. All three of us have some external microphones. It's nice for your team that you're talking to. Make sure there's some quality audio coming through. And last, but especially not least, is a high quality pair of sweatpants.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I'm a passionate sweatpant connoisseur, and so I feel like right now is my time to shine. So now with this going on, I can look at my wife, and I probably don't look as foolish now for spending copious amounts of time and money consuming sweatpants. So
are we allowed to talk brands here?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I got lots of different ones.
Okay. I thought once you go Lululemon, you never go back.
I didn't get to that point. I went. There's an alternative called Miles Apparel. I really dig their stuff, and then Reigning Champ if I'm feeling really fancy. But before we get down the rabbit hole of sweatpants, because we probably could, we should probably acknowledge Steven's stash because it has made its own presence on this stream.
Okay, since you brought it up, I don't always wear a stash. I thought a couple weeks ago that I would start growing a mustache just to be kind of silly while a lot of these businesses are closed down. Kind of like a playoff beard, but kind of like a Corona stash. It's silly though, and I found a way to layer on something for if anybody brings it up. I've got a link handy to send that person to you. Maybe we can share it in the live comments. I can't do it here.
I got it. Is it the Give directly?
Yeah. Anytime someone has brought up my mustache in the last few days, I've sent that link and asked that person to donate $5. This is the most legit site that I could find that helps folks most affected by the lockdowns. So if you were thinking about asking me about that or mentioning it, I'm going to ask you to donate $5. That's going to help out people most affected by the shutdowns. I won't see that you did it. I don't think you can post anywhere saying that you did it, but just asking $5 if you were wondering about the mustache.
All right. Now let's get back to design topics. Dave.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about next? You want to talk about tools?
Well, during their intro, we kind of talked about our environment a little bit. How are we, Stephen? How do you organize your environment in the past and now with? I mean, you're always remote. So, what is your environment like? What do you have there to inspire you? Sure.
Well, I've got a ton of design books. That's nice to refresh yourself on some processes or to just get some inspiration. Another nice thing is that you can't all see around here is that I've got like the walls in the office covered with framed posters. And I wanted to share this book with you from the bookshelf. And this is just for you all watching, not for sharing with your friends. This is your privilege. There's these books called Gig Posters. There's 2 volumes on Amazon. And this is a very standard size poster, and you can find really cheap frames for this, but it's just a ton of really well done professional gig posters, concert posters, and they're all perforated so you can tear them out and frame them really easily. So like this book is like $25 or $30. So while you're gonna be working from home for a while, might as well get some good artwork up and do it easily and cheaply. And it's just for you. Don't tell your friends.
That's nice. I'm struggling with like this like Target purchase back here. Like it looked kind of neat at the time, but now when I'm sitting in this room, things are very monochrome and there's not a whole lot of energy. And I'm only realizing that now that I'm spending entire days in here at a time. I need freshness like you just shared there.
It's pretty spicy. You can't show all these on this live feed.
Yeah. Dan, how about your space there? A lot of shoes.
A lot of shoes. Shoes inspire me, David. As you might or might not know, I view them as works of art, and every one of them has a bit of a story. Even the ones that you can see in the background have some level of a story, which I appreciate that. When we got this house, I had these great built-in bookshelves. I wanted to keep that. They're a little beat, and I like that about them. It gives it a little bit of a warmth space. And I've done I went through with a really terrible idea of transitioning to work from home, but also redoing the walls of my office at the same time. I don't know why. That was ridiculous, but I'm very happy with how it turned out. And I have a great Draplin poster on the wall, Detroit, Michigan one that he did and handed out. Well, I'm sure I bought it, but handed it out when he was here speaking. So that can be pretty inspiring. And I think just in general, having a nice little remote setup, microphone, camera is really helpful. I have a sit to stand desk too, which is also really helpful as well. But I'm not a
Sonos guy.
designer, so
Do I see,
what's that?
Do I see Sonos back there? Speaker? Are you a
Oh
Sonos
yeah,
guy?
oh
It's
yeah,
a
oh
donkey?
yeah.
Nice.
There's a lot. Let me tell you, there's a lot going on back here. Also have a Can Gold Lion right there.
Ooh,
Boop.
so
Hello.
shiny.
Yeah. And apparently that's a big deal in the advertising world. We didn't know, and now it's on my bookshelf. So that's cool.
Oh gosh, lost my train of thought there. Let's move on to communication. And Stephen, I'm going to lean on you pretty heavily for this one since you've been remote for so long. How do you communicate design effectively being remote?
Yeah, so I rely heavily on my tools, my digital tools. With using, obviously, being a tech company, we use Slack a ton, but there's a call feature that's really easy, and it's you don't have to schedule anything, you don't have to put time on people's calendars. But if I'm having a conversation with a coworker, or several, you can just hit the call button and jump on a call. Share screens. You can even do some scribbling on there to identify things. That's one I rely on pretty heavily, and just that human interaction is really important throughout the day. I'm in my basement right now, and if I'm not seeing my coworkers and interacting with my coworkers more than just Slack messages or more than just audio messages, I get a little stir crazy. So I really like to use that call feature, and there's a bunch of coworkers that I have that are really used to jumping on video calls and chatting through concepts or making debates a little bit more high quality when we're getting on video and showing our screens. So Slack is really critical for a full-time remoter. I screenshot a ton, that Command Shift 4 and then drag an area. I screenshot a ton. I hate having a messy desktop, my digital desktop. I like my background that I have, but oh boy, it's just messy with some. So that's a weekly thing that I do, and I go through and clean up that desktop. I can employ the same method with my analog desktop, my acoustic. Other than that, there's a couple other tools that we use to communicate that are really, really useful for being remote. We should reach out to see if they'll send some money our way for this. But Miro is a nice one. That's you can just it's great for Post-its, the digital Post-its. They've got a bunch of templates for organizing Kanban boards, even, or for making journey maps. But really just coming to decisions on anything or doing design. You can do full design sprints using that. That's another critical one for communicating well.
Hey, Dave, hook me up with some of those links. I'm going to kind of throw them up on the screen. So if people are interested in finding out some of these resources as Steven's going through them, I'll at least post them up on the stream.
Yeah, Miro's got a free version too. So you can make a couple boards for free and work with your coworkers using that without having to get the corporate credit card out. Yeah, I highly recommend just giving that one a try.
Miro? Is it
M-I-R-O? Yeah,
Yep.
M-I-R-O.
Oh, post it in the private chat on here, Dave.
Since we're doing that,
Sorry, I got it.
there's another one called Crisp that digitally removes background noise. Again, if you're, we're all full-time remote now, but if you've got kids in the background, banging on pots and whatever going on in the background, sometimes I've got a space heater here because my basement's so cold. That Crisp thing, and I'll find a way to link that. That's another great tool for full-time remoters, and it's like they've got a freemium model as well.
I just looked at that earlier. I think the Crisp.ai,
it's pretty nice.
If you've got any background noise, it works well for muting your own background noise and muting your coworkers' background noise. So you don't need everybody to use it to get the benefits.
Yeah, it kind of just acts as a in-between audio device. So you just switch your input and output over to it. And gosh, I think it's like, well, it's paid, right? But there's a trial.
There's a freemium version. You get like 120 free minutes a month. So digital noise cancellation. Sorry, Dan.
I saw it does it. I saw there's an iOS and Android app too, right? Is it just, do you do voice calls then through their servers? Is that how it works? It's like a go-between. I haven't used it on mobile, but it'll live in your status bar up on your desktop, and you can like switch them on and off, especially if you're limiting your 120 free minutes. Not sure about mobile though. Cool.
I want to +1 that Scribble tool in Slack too. I find that incredibly valuable. Like talking about anything, not just design, it helps to mark things up. Something we generally use Meet in the office, which is a Google product, and I don't know why, but no doodle pen.
No doodle pen. We have a lot of fun with that when there's several people on the call and someone's just doodling away, and it doesn't say who's doodling. That's the thing. So trying to demo some work, and someone out there on the call is like doodling away on there. Like, you gotta, who is this? Who doodled that?
Is it the doodle bot? Is that what it is?
No. We were just talking about, so when you're on a Slack call, you get the little pen tool, right? You just kind of scribble and then it fades away. It's sort of a temporary way to.
Oh, I did not know about
that. Yeah. It's great. It, when you're on these calls and you're speaking about a particular area of the thing you're sharing and you don't have a cursor, the Scribble pen just gives you an opportunity to circle it, draw an arrow here, kind of get your thoughts out temporarily before it fades away. Nice little handy tool.
Oh, I can't wait to scribble some things for you, Dave. We will design so many things. Hey, Jeff Kelly just asked if there is anything like Crisp, but for the visual mess behind him. I believe that is called a green screen.
Yeah, for sure.
Green
screen.
Collapsible green screen from Elgato, and you are good to go.
There's a couple like digital versions. I think Zoom has a way to do that, to green screen. And even Microsoft Teams, if you're using that. Don't think Google Hangout has that though.
No, Skype and Teams has a way to blur your background at the very least, which would be really nice if Teams would offer, or if Hangouts would offer that too, or Hangouts Meet, or whatever they're deciding to call it today. They have 36 messaging and video apps, so whatever the flavor of the week is.
Now, talking tools here, something else on my list to talk about, it's collaboration and how, we talked a little bit about it there. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Figma, since it seems like it's well suited for entirely remote teams, if that's what you had, because you get that ability to work together and see the presence of other contributors in that document itself. Steven, I don't think like you are able to use Figma heavily on your current project, but you've seen this in action, right? And I guess I'm just curious how you collaborate when not using Figma, or just any tips for remote collaboration.
Yeah, I have used Figma for my current client project early on, but we switched back to Slack. But I wish we would use Figma all the time. It's a little more robust. You can use Figma for all the things that you would use Miro for, but it's a lot more robust. So, and you might not be able to get enough people on the same project without having to pay first. But it's got all the same, like picture like a design tool like Sketch, if you're familiar with that. Figma is like that, but plus the collaboration you have in like Google Docs. Like anybody who's in there can move around like a component or add to a component or like duplicate an artboard and work directly next to the artboard that somebody else is working on. And you can actually do all the things that, just about all the things that Miro does in Figma, but a little more robust. And I think it's, for some people, just a little bit scarier tool because there's just, all sorts of tools on the left and the right and layers and all that. That's by far my favorite design tool these days, though. Yeah, and it's got the prototyping. Sorry, Claude, I forgot to mention it's got the prototyping, pretty much all the features that InVision has for prototyping. But again, it's all in one tool. So you can send out a link of a prototype, which when you're using a link for a prototype, instead of like prototyping in one tool, which is hard to get like third-party users using, just a way easier way to operate.
Yeah. It took a while to warm up to it, but now I'm kind of all in on it. Just love these collaborative features.
Hey, Toby actually snuck in a question on LinkedIn.
Toby.
Yes.
Yeah. So while he's not with us in video, he's with us in LinkedIn spirit. So similar to Dave's question, what kind of tools do you use to collaborate with clients remotely for real-time design activities?
Yeah. So if by any chance you can get your client switched over to Figma, that's huge. We've got someone on the design team who recently switched over to Figma. And so this designer is working with at least one other designer from the client side, and they're doing that same kind of thing. They're working side by side on maybe the same opportunity space. That's pretty neat. When you're working with a client or a stakeholder, I tend to just go with whatever my client or stakeholder, my counterpart, is using to collaborate. So in this instance, my client is using Microsoft Teams, and so they've got like a video chat feature. So I tend to not ask too much of whoever I'm talking to on the other end, especially if there's like 4 people using the same tool. I'm not going to like ask them to all switch over to Google Hangouts. So I try to default. But that said, we do use, this is a little bit more specific for designers, but we use Abstract. It's like a version management tool for Sketch users. By the way, that's another thing that Figma has just built into itself. But for using Sketch, like version management, it's kind of like a GitHub for design files. That's a really nice one that we use. So we'll like work on a branch. I'll work on a branch of a, what's it called? Like something like a principal design file that we have. And then you can like merge a branch. So for this client, the communication tool we use, like I said, is Microsoft Teams. But we also have used Miro together for doing some sticky exercises with stickies. And there's a couple other ones where we also have some folks from our client on our Slack channel. So that's been working pretty well.
What about InVision? Are we still, I think that was kind of like the go-to collaborative design experience at one point. And I think it was good. I think it got sometimes a little too much credit because people are like, oh, just do an InVision prototype and it'll be just fine. And that's just not always the case. Do we still use InVision?
Yeah, I do use InVision with my current client project. And again, you can share a link for a prototype, which is just the easiest way to do it instead of asking somebody to install something special on their computer. I was just working on connecting all sorts of components and screens with the project that I'm working on. So yeah, I've got it's pretty interesting to see just so many arrows going back and forth. This component goes to that screen. If you hit back, it goes there. It's a good way to, this is InVision also. It's a good way to communicate interaction, but also that links out and to a prototype that just anybody can use. So yeah, still using InVision all the time. It's still, I don't know, ubiquitous, maybe with UX designers that kind of sketch and InVision. So Figma does all of that. But, it's hard to make that switch. It seems like, Sketch is not that old. It's just a few years old, a handful of years old. So it's like another switch, it's like another design tool. How long is it going to be before another one is even better than Figma?
About Sketch, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if this period of time is going to inspire people or create like a surge of new ideas, since we're all in this position,
Yeah, I wonder how many products are going to come out of this, right? I think that's what you're saying, right, Dave?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
There's enough people that are probably going to push up against limitations of what currently exists out there. And in a lot of ways, some of the best products are born out of frustration and limitations. And in a lot of ways, there's a couple schools of thought for launching a product. One is being first to market, but then the other one's being best to market. And I like the school of thought of best to market. I think you get a little spike if you're first, but it's really nice to see some other folks, put something out there, create natural frustration that takes place, and then you have the good fortune of analyzing and fixing some of that natural frustration.
Yeah, a product from our past that came to mind was Squiggle. Do you remember this? Like Squiggle or Squibble? It was a tool for remote teams where basically everybody's camera was always on. So it looked like it was intended for smaller teams. And then you could pretty easily jump into a call with a particular person. And I just can't help but think, now that everybody's remote and not seeing each other, like we may have moved on from that, but there's a whole new group of potential users that may be interested in something like that. And maybe we'll see tools like that return, or some other problems being solved we didn't know most people had until today.
That said, there's another tool like that. I'm trying to think of the name of that still does that. Just so, I don't know, maybe it's like your little oxytocin hit to have coworkers nearby, but it's like a window that has people's cameras always on, but you can like blur out yourself. Like there's like levels of blurriness you can add to it, so it's not like you're focused on your coworkers. It's just kind of they're in there in the peripheral. Still a little weird. Never caught on for me, so I'm going to go ahead and not remember the name of that and post that. It had a creepy name too. I can't remember what it was, like lurk.io.
Yeah, no thanks.
Can we buy that name?
If that product doesn't exist already, it will now that you've given people that name. And that
you've said it now. The domain has to exist now. And that the rule, if you say a domain on broadcast television, then you have to go out and make it exist or something like that. Right. There's some rule about that. All right. So we're at 33 minutes. We can keep going if we want. Do we have more we want to talk about?
Yeah, I've got one more thing to talk about. That's just like how we as designers are staying connected. Just to throw out an example, last week, one of the design team members set up a digital happy hour, just an opportunity at the end of the week for us all to see each other's faces. And we got some interesting house tours, and it was really just, there was no agenda, right? It was just an opportunity for us to hear what was going on, what people's plans were for the weekend. And that was a nice kind of way to cap the week off, a week where we hadn't really seen each other. I really enjoyed that. Yeah,
it's a really interesting perspective on your coworker that, sometimes you get to always see my background. Well, you do always get to see my background, but you never really get to see what's on the other side of the door. That's where I was on that call, on the other side of that door. So I got to show my teammates that perspective and like everything else that's happening in the basement. There's some cool spaces that we got to see. Like a bar right over there. Ooh, that's nice to have right by your workstation.
And how else do you stay connected? You and I talk frequently. I'm sure you do with other members of the design team. Is that really what it's about? Just kind of, pinging team members, seeing how they're doing.
Yeah, you kind of have to be deliberate about it. Working from home all the time, but I like to talk to my coworkers. And so I mean, it's natural, but also, I don't want it to be coming off as, what's the word? Something like cliche, checking in when we're all remote, like, hey, how's it going? But like, naturally, I'm just curious how my coworkers are doing. So I like to randomly go down my Slack list with people I've been recently talking to and just check in and say what's up, find out how's it going in their part of town. It's always a good topic of conversation being from Detroit originally, to hear about where folks are living around the Detroit metro area or Detroit, and talk about, what's in their neighborhood that they still have access to, what grocery stores they're going to. It's good to check in. Like, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing cliche or annoying about checking in just to say hello. Like, I never get that in my work day. Like, there's nobody coming in to check in and say hello unless you count my dog. So it's okay to strike up conversation and do that via Slack, and jump on a call if you need to, and carry your computer around and do a home tour. I think that's fun.
Hey, Stephen, Toby wanted to know if you could give one piece of advice for adjusting to remote work. What would that be?
Mm-hmm. I'd say, like back to just what we were talking about, just stay connected. Check in on your friends, check in on your coworkers, and just see what's up with their day. Otherwise, you're just not going to get that. And, you're not going to be able to walk over to anybody right now and see how they're doing. And so it might feel a little unnatural at first, but just give somebody a hello and say, how's it going? What's up? Just start having a conversation. That's the big one there.
We were talking about that before we went live, as we were kind of preparing. I was just talking about the most difficult thing that, other than having kids at home, the most difficult thing that I've been experiencing so far has been missing out on the small conversations. So we have some folks that are really great at Slack, some folks that are not great at Slack. And one of my favorite things at the office is being able to either overhear the small conversations, or if someone needs my input on something, they can just quickly, swing by my desk and ask. And I miss out on those. And I found that you just have to be more purposeful, more intentional about your communication, which takes up more time, right? Like a quick swing by my desk might take a minute or two, but a jump on a call on Slack just may take a little bit more time coordinating, especially if you have kids and family and pets and all that stuff around the house. It becomes a little bit more challenging.
Toby, if I can give you one more pointer for working at home, since you're at home and you might not be used to working at home, and you're not used to all these distractions that normally don't overlap with your work hours, that's a difficult challenge to overcome right away your first few weeks working at home. So there's a methodology called a Pomodoro timer, and there's like a bunch of different free products that you can use that leverage this methodology. So the methodology is like you can find a timer that will hold you to 25 minutes of straight work and then a 5-minute break. And so you go through these cycles. I think there's you can go through 3 of those cycles before you get a longer break, like a half hour, something like that. With certain timers, you can even customize the length of the timers. But that's what I've used for a while when I was getting used to working from home full time. Was it holds you to 25 minutes. That's not that long to focus. And you can fit all that garbage that you might have been distracting yourself with in 5 minutes and get back to it. I like having a system. I like having some structure like that. So try out a Pomodoro timer, or you might find a tomato timer out there. I think Pomodoro might have been the person's name who invented the methodology that means tomato.
All right.
Yeah, solid tips.
Anything else we want to talk about before I do some house cleaning stuff?
Get out for a walk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially now, man. It's been cold here, so now it's warming up finally.
Yeah, listen, having the birds out there chirping springtime. That's pretty nice for harnessing your mellow these days if you're working from the basement all day.
All right. Well, Stephen, Dave, thank you for talking remote work, specifically around design. We've shared out some good links for people if you're looking for tools to either work with inside of a team or work with personally. We had some viewers today, and that's good. Some questions, which is nice. And ultimately, it's just kind of nice to go live today and have some conversations. Live's weird, right? Like we're having this conversation, but in a lot of ways, we're also having a conversation with a wall, which is very interesting and both fun and confusing at the same time. That said, we will have a couple more times we're going to try to go live this week. So tomorrow is actually Air Max Day. So Nike created something, I don't know, a few years ago now called Air Max Day on March 26th. And we're going to go on for a few minutes with a couple folks to talk about their favorite Air Maxes and maybe show those off. So won't be tech related whatsoever, but you know what? Why not have a little fun where you can? And then on Friday, we're going to, so I think tomorrow's will be around like anywhere between 2 and 2:30. And then on Friday around 1:00, we're going to be going live, but this time will be another remote spotlight series, and it'll be focused on leadership and people ops. So the leader of our people operations team, I guess, is going to be coming on, Erica, and she's going to be talking about what that has been like. So I mentioned already some of my challenges have been those missing conversations because you need to be so intentional about it, and I struggle with that. And so Erica has seen a lot of other different things inside the responsibilities of what people operations means at Detroit Labs. So figured that'd be an opportunity to have her on and discuss that with her. So thank you for those that asked questions. We'll probably send out some social reminders about when we're going live next. This one kind of all came together in a short amount of time this morning. So Stephen, thank you for rearranging schedules and joining us. And Dave, as always. And then anything else to add, Dave? Look like you were going to talk.
Yeah. I just want to jump in and say if any designers are out there listening and have remote tips, I assume there's a way to reply to this on LinkedIn or obviously in the YouTube comments, or just hit us up on our Detroit Labs LinkedIn page. We'd love to talk about it with you.
Yeah, I think at this point we're going to try to see how many times a week we can go live, and yeah, I'm gonna hold on. Steven has a handle.
I was just thinking if you want to reach out directly,
I'm gonna create a banner.
Here we go.
There it is.
Boom.
There it is.
On all the social channels. What social channels are you on?
Yeah. There's Twitter and Instagram. I'd be on Twitter more often. Try to stay out of the Instagram black hole while you're working from home.
Yeah, the Explore tab is a challenge. So hit up Steven on Friendster, and we will be streaming later on this week. We'll see you tomorrow for Air Max Day, and Friday talking to Erica. Thanks, anyone.
More Toby.
What?
More Toby.
Toby will be on this week at some point. He has
Toby.
confirmed, I think, that he will be able to join us this week at some point. So you will see Toby. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.